Hello everybody, my name is Agnieszka Piasecka and I would like to welcome everybody who showed up today at my seminar. This is one of my many seminars that I will be conducting in the city of Santa Fe, New Mexico, and each seminar is about a different immigration topic that we're going to be addressing. Today I would like to discuss a popular question regarding traveling for green card holders. A lot of people have contacted me from this area wondering if they are okay to travel for extended periods of times if they are green card holders, which means permanent residents. So I would like to talk about it some more today. First, before we start talking about traveling on a green card, I just want to introduce myself. Many of you may already know me. My name is Agnieszka Piasecka. I am a immigration attorney in Florida and also in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Here I hold one of my offices. However, I can help people from all over the United States with regards to immigration issues, and you may find me traveling around the states holding seminars like this one. So coming back to the question regarding traveling on a green card. As many of you may know, it's okay to travel if you are a permanent resident with your green card. Of course, you have to always have your green card on you, as long as you do not exceed 1 year out of the country. So generally, as a rule of thumb, you're going to lose your green card if you exceed 1 year outside of the country if you traveled and did not apply for a re-entry permit before traveling. If you want to maintain continuous residence, whether it's for your citizenship application reasons or you don't want to have any problems upon re-entry, then I strongly suggest that you do not exceed 6 months outside of the country. So each time you exceed 6 months outside of the US at one trip, you may encounter some problems if you try to return after a period longer than 6 months, especially if you do it many times. If you do it frequently, they may start questioning if you're in fact a permanent resident. However, generally, you are able to travel with your green card without losing your green card as long as you do not exceed 1 year outside of the United States. However, it's strongly recommended that you do not exceed 6 months, because after 6 months you can create a presumption that you abandon the green card. You can travel multiple times for a 6 month period, for up to 6 months period. It's important that you pay attention to the length of each trip. Each trip should not exceed 6 months, and the maximum allowed period is 1 year. If you exceed 1 year without a travel permit, you're going to lose your green card. So that leads us to the next question that people often ask: why do I need to apply for a re-entry permit? You need to apply for a re-entry permit before you travel for longer periods of times, just because you want to avoid those type of issues. If you stay abroad for more than 6 months but less than 1 year, the immigration authorities may consider that you abandoned your permanent resident status, and they may direct you to appear in front of a judge or they can try to take your green card away at the border. If you have been outside of the United States for over than a year, then your permanent resident green card is voided and you're no longer a permanent resident, and you would have to reapply for either a returning resident visa that's available to you at an embassy or consulate, or in other cases, when you do not qualify for a returning resident visa, you may have to reapply for a green card all over again. Each time you exceed 6 months outside the US, you also interrupt your continuance of your residence, and that matters if you would like to apply for a US citizenship. They're going to be looking at that. What is a re-entry permit? A re-entry permit is a document issued by USCIS, which is the Immigration Authority's office, which allows a permanent resident to travel out of the United States for more than 1 year, however, for no longer than 2 years. So each re-entry permit is going to be valid for up to 2 years, and depending on the purpose of your travel, it may be valid for multiple entrances or just one. What are the other uses of a re-entry permit? You can also apply for a re-entry permit if you are not yet a permanent resident, but you're just in the process of applying for your green card, when you're still waiting for your documents, for your adjustment of status. Technically you are without a status. However, you can, if you need to travel during that time when you're waiting, you can apply for re-entry permit, and that may allow you to travel abroad while you're waiting for your green card to be processed. Another purpose of a re-entry permit, which is also called advanced parole or travel permit, another purpose of that document would be to use it as your travel document. If you cannot obtain a passport, or if you're having issues with renewing your passport and you have to travel, then you can, in many countries, you can use your re-entry permit in lieu of your passport. But before you do that, you need to check with that country of destination where you're traveling to if they're going to honor that document. A lot of countries do. Next question that people often ask me is, how do I apply for a travel permit? So in order to apply for a travel permit, you need to file a specific immigration form. The form is called I-131, and this form should be accompanied by certain documents that would apply to your case. Typically, you would apply for this document well in advance, before you plan to travel outside of the United States. Next subject that I would like to discuss with you is what will happen if I do not apply for a re-entry permit before I travel outside of the United States. So again, coming back to that issue of going out of the country without a re-entry permit, if you exceed 1 year, you lose your green card. If you exceed 6 months, you may lose your green card, especially if you do it repetitively. So they may stop you at the border, and they may direct you to an immigration judge, and they can say you're going to be required to appear in front of an immigration judge to defend your case and to prove to the immigration court that you did not abandon your status, or they will ask you, that happens more often, they will just ask you to submit your green card right there and then. They'll give you some papers to sign, and if you give them your green card and sign those forms that they give to you, you abandoned your green card. Another very popular question that I get asked a lot is if you can file your application for re-entry permit while you are already outside of the country. And unfortunately, the answer to this question is no. So you need to remember, if you're planning to travel abroad, you must apply for your re-entry permit while you're still in the US. That's very important. If you leave the country, it's too late to file for a re-entry permit. Will USCIS deny my application for re-entry permit if I leave the United States while it is still pending? So the answer to this question is actually no. You can file the form and go travel, but the order would be file your application for re-entry permit well in advance, show up to your biometrics appointment that you're going to be called to go to, and after that you can go travel. You should indicate in your application where would you like your re-entry permit to be sent to. You're going to have an option to pick it up at a local embassy or consulate in another country, if that's what is more convenient for you. You will need that re-entry permit to come back to the United States after 1 year. The key is to apply early and then not miss your appointment at the local USCIS service center that you're going to be called to for your biometrics. Biometrics are your fingerprints, your digital fingerprinting, and also they're going to take your picture at that time, which will appear on your card. Another question I get asked a lot, if I file my form for re-entry permit while I'm still in the United States but then leave, can I submit my biometrics while I'm outside of the United States? For example, some people would want to go to an US embassy or a consulate and hope to be fingerprinted there. However, that's not possible. So the most important thing is to stay in the United States until you receive that biometric appointment. It can only be done in the US at a USCIS service support center. What if I must leave the United States before I can file Form I-131 for re-entry permit? So you can leave. However, do not exceed 6 months, preferably do not exceed 6 months outside of the United States. But if you must exceed 6 months, make sure to never ever exceed 1 year without having a document to come back with, because after 1 year you have abandoned your permanent resident status. I have another question here that people often ask me, which is regarding an old expired re-entry permit. If I have an old re-entry permit, do I need to turn in that old permit in order to receive a new one? So generally, yes. Each time you have to apply for a new re-entry permit. They cannot be extended. So if your current permit expires, you'll need to apply for a new one. And if you still have a valid re-entry permit, you're not going to you have to return it. You're not going to receive double permits, so you have to send it in when you apply for a new one. You do not need to send the expired re-entry permit. Generally, the USCIS will not issue a new re-entry permit to someone who already has a valid one. So if you need to renew your re-entry permit each time, you either have to submit the valid one or wait until the first one expires. If your re-entry permit was lost, stolen, or destroyed, you can apply for a replacement of your card, and it depends if basically the fees would depend how the re-entry permit was lost. If it was lost on the way to you from the USCIS, you may be able to avoid paying the fees again. However, if you lost it or if it was stolen from you, then you have to resubmit the application and pay again. So basically you start the application all over. Can I apply for a re-entry permit online? Yes, you can. The USCIS offers an option to apply for it online or on paper, whichever form you prefer. Is there a difference between applying online or on paper? Generally, yes, there is a difference in a sense that if you're applying online, the website will lead you through the process. They're going to ask you question by question and let you proceed only if you answer the question. And then in the end, the online application will tell you how much you have to pay, and it will ask you to electronically sign it and submit it. So a lot of people may find this process easier. If you're filing for your re-entry permit on paper, you need to make sure that you're using the correct current version of the form. Those forms are frequently updated. For example, as of today, today is October 11th, 2024, I already received a notification that they are updating the current form. So, and they won't accept the previous versions. So each time you're filing on paper, by mail, you need to make sure that you're using the correct dates, the correct edition. You can see the date on the bottom of the form on each page, and also on the top of the form on each page. It will tell you, I mean on, I believe on first page for sure, it will tell you which is the current edition date and which is the expiration date of that form. Always confirm this by checking directly with the USCIS website. How much will I pay for a re-entry permit? So the fee as of today, or October 11th, 2024, the fee is $630, and that's regardless if you file online or by mail. Another question is regarding the refund for the fees. So if you have already advanced the fees and your application was either denied or approved, the moment you paid those fees and they collected the fees, those fees are non-refundable. You're not going to be able to request a refund once you pay for those USCIS fees. What happens if you applied for a re-entry permit and according to the USCIS they sent you the card, they delivered, but you didn't receive it? In that case, what can you do? You can, first of all, always keep a paper copy or a scanned PDF copy of your application of what you submitted to the USCIS. Go back to that copy and check if you provided them with the correct address. That would be the first step. So, taking into consideration that you gave them the correct address and you never received the card, you can contact them. First, contact them, try to follow up, see if they can check what happened. So usually, if the card is lost by them, by the USCIS or by the post office that delivers your card, you can reapply. You can apply for replacement of your card, and you don't have to pay the fees again. However, if the card was lost by you or stolen from you, and the USCIS has proved that they delivered it to your address, you have to pay again when you're applying for replacement of your card. So in either case you can apply for replacement of your card, but the difference will be whether or not you have to pay the fees. If you gave them the wrong address and they delivered it to that address, then it's on you. They're not going to take responsibility for delivering the card to the wrong address that you provided them with. Another question regards an error on a card that the USCIS produced to you. So some people may find that there's an error on their re-entry permit card. So again, in that situation, I would first start from checking what you submitted to them. Check the copy of your application, make sure that the information you gave them was correct, but the error was on them. If the error was on them, you may apply for a replacement of your card. Make sure to indicate what the error was and that the error was on their end, and in that case scenario you don't have to pay the filing fees again. How long does it take to receive a travel permit? So that's a tricky question. So technically, generally the USCIS strives to produce the card within 6 months of the date of application. However, that not always happens. So it happens very often that it takes longer. Sometimes if you get lucky, it may take shorter. You may receive your card quickly. However, I would not count on it. I would not count on it. I would be prepared for at least 6 months of wait. And in fact, if you go to the USCIS website, they have a website where you can check the processing times for each form. You're going to find that the average processing time for this type of application currently, as of October 11th, 2024, for most applications, according to the USCIS, it's currently taking 14 and a half months. Yes, so they calculate this average based on 80% of their cases. Obviously, not all the cases are the same. That form I-131 is filed also for other situations, not just for re-entry permit. So when they calculate the average processing time, they take all the applications that they received and they calculate average based on 80% of their pending applications. Generally, based on my experience, it does not take that long. It doesn't take 14.5 months to receive a re-entry permit. However, What that means for you is that if 6 months have passed, you haven't received your card yet, you cannot do anything. You cannot ask them to speed it up. You cannot really file a service request to see what's going on with your application, because according to their website, your application is still within the processing times. So you cannot do much until those processing times expire. So you will have to just patiently wait until, as of now, 14.5 miles have passed before you can file a service request. A service request is basically a request for someone to look at your file and provide you with an answer, what's going on. And that can be done only if the application is outside of its normal processing times. I also get asked a lot, what are the timelines for the whole process? So the timelines are basically such that first you file your application, then within approximately 10 days, you should receive, minimum 10 days, I would say, you should receive the first notice. It's going to be a notice of receipt of your application, and it will have your receipt number. With that receipt number, you can along the way track the status of your application. Then next will be your biometrics notice, and that document is issued approximately within 1 to 2 months from the time of filing. And that biometrics notice will have the exact date, time and address where you have to appear to submit your fingerprints and have your photo taken. Usually the date of that appointment will fall within 2 to 3 weeks from the time you received your biometrics appointment notice, but it may be sooner or it may be longer, but usually that would be the timeline. Then after your biometrics appointment is scheduled, after you appear for your fingerprints, you just wait, and after that time, if you're lucky, within 2 to 3 months you may already receive your decision, but most people may have to wait longer. So like I said, if you're lucky, if everything goes well, I would say within approximately more or less 6 months you should receive your document and be able to travel with it safely. A lot of people ask if they can expedite the processing of their application. So the answer is yes and no. You can ask the USCIS to expedite your application, but the trick is that you have to have a very valid reason, and it's in absolute discretion of the USCIS if they're going to approve it. So they don't have strict rules, they only have some guidelines that they can give you what would be an example of a situation in which you would be able to ask them to expedite your application, and I can give you those examples here. So they say you can request expediting of your request in circumstances such as, but not limited to, severe financial loss to a company or person, provided that the need for urgent action is not the result of the petitioner's or applicant's failure to timely file the benefit request or to timely respond to any requests for evidence. So, severe financial loss to a company or person. Next, emergencies or urgent humanitarian situations. Next situation would be non-profit organization, as designated by the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, whose request is in furtherance of the cultural or social interests of the United States. Government interests, including cases identified by the government as urgent because they involve the public interest, public safety, national interest, or national security interests. And clear USCIS error. So, unless you have an emergency, some kind of severe financial hardship, or some government's United States interests are involved, or there is a clear USCIS error, you may not be able to expedite your application. And when you submit a request to expedite your application, you must submit proof of your of the circumstances you're claiming. So just stating that you have an emergency, or just stating that you would suffer severe financial loss, that's not enough. You have to present proof of each statement you're making. A lot of people ask which documents should they include with their application for permission to travel, and some people are also wondering how are they going to do it if they're filing online. So the answer is simple. If you're filing online, it's going to give you an option to attach PDF files. If you're filing on paper, then you can just attach documents if you have any documents in support of your claims. Ideally, everything that you're stating should have proof attached to it. So generally you will have to submit the form, the proper form, which is I-131 form. Make sure that you're submitting the current edition of that form, especially if you're submitting it on paper. And you will have to include the statement regarding the purpose of your intended travel, the specific dates of your trip, the countries of destination, and you would want to submit any supporting documentation that you may deem appropriate that would be in support of your request to travel. What if you misstate the truth? What if you lie in your application? So, that's another very dangerous situation and very tricky question. If you intentionally misrepresent material facts in your application and you get granted your re-entry permit, then it's not valid. That permit is automatically not valid. So be careful to not do that. What if you make a mistake? Well, that can also invalidate your permit. So you need to be very careful that all the information you're submitting to the immigration authorities are truthful and correct. If you're not sure of something, I would strongly suggest that you indicate that on your application. So for example, they're going to ask you for exact dates of your travel, or the countries of destination that you are planning to visit, and you are not sure 100% of those dates or the countries, then indicate so on your application that this is something that still needs to be determined, or give them approximate dates and make sure to indicate so. Another question that I get is if I can give you any other tips or suggestions before you file your application for travel permit. So of course, my first suggestion that I would always make, if you can, try to use an attorney, because it really helps. Attorneys have experience with those type of documentation and applications, so they can give you a lot of good suggestions, and they make sure that everything is filed correctly and processed smoothly. And that just stems from their not only their knowledge but also experience in handling those types of cases. If you cannot afford an attorney, then you can attempt to do it on your own. However, be prepared that if you make a mistake, it may cause delays, or it may also cause you a lot of problems if you leave the country and do not have a re-entry permit to come back with. So be on the lookout of potential problems. If you don't know exactly how to file that application, make sure, for example, make sure that you're filing the proper edition date of your form. Make sure that you sign your form. You need to submit a form that is signed by ink, the original, not a copy of your form. You also have to attach the filing fees. So whether you're paying by a check, money order, or a credit card authorization form, make sure you sign it and make sure that you put the correct amount. The current filing fee is $630. If you make a mistake in a fee, if you overpay or underpay, your application is not going to be processed. They're not going to accept partial fees or overpayments. Make sure that you file everything correctly. Also, always check on the USCIS website. If you're sending it on paper, check that you have the correct address, because those lockbox addresses of the USCIS are frequently updated. So check if you are sending it to the correct address, and also make sure that you're sending it to the address assigned to the form of mailing. So for example, if you're using the post office, then there's going to be a different address than for courier services. Always keep a copy of your form. I cannot emphasize this enough. I see it in my everyday practice that people file applications and forms on their own, and they haven't retained a copy of what they filed. With the USCIS, with the immigration authorities, this is of crucial importance, because you need to have a record of what you submitted to them, what was said, in case if you need to in the future follow up on it, or if you need to determine if there was an error on your end or the immigration authorities made an error. You need to be able to verify that, and that's why you need copies of your application. A lot of people also get stressed along the way because they forget what they put in their prior forms. So the rule of thumb is never lie, always state the truth. If you state the truth, you shouldn't have too many issues with forgetting what you said. However, it does happen that as the time goes by, you forget a lot of information. You can, for example, forget the dates of your residence in certain locations, or you can forget the countries you have visited, or the travel trips, the dates of the travel that you requested, or plans could have changed, or you can forget the addresses of your residence if time has passed, and then you're going to get nervous if time comes that you, for example, need to apply for your citizenship, and then you have to go back so many years to provide the same information, and you forgot what you stated previously, and you know that USCIS is very careful to compare all your answers from current time and previous applications. You don't want to be accused basically of fraud or misrepresenting the truth. So you always want to provide accurate information and have a record of what you previously stated. So this would pretty much conclude my presentation regarding a travel permit, in other words, advance parole or re-entry permit. If you have any questions, I think I pretty much addressed most of the questions that were submitted to me ahead of time when I first announced that this seminar would be held. So I went by each question, but if you have any other questions that I haven't addressed or something now came to your mind, feel free to stay after this seminar and I can address your questions personally. I'm going to stay here for another half an hour or more if I need to make sure to answer each of your individual questions. And at this time, I would like to thank you very much for attending my seminar. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it provided you with some valid, useful information that will help you in the future. And I would invite you to check my website regularly for updates on my future seminars. I will be holding more seminars here in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and also in other cities in the United States. So please check or contact me for the next dates. Thank you very much for attending, and I wish you all pleasant afternoon. Thank you.